So the third Doctor and Sarah, well, he doesn't call her Sarah yet. But anyway, they're traveling through space, and all of a sudden the TARDIS loses power. There's this energy drain on it, and they land on this planet, and it's all mysterious and whatnot. But eventually, they do get separated as typical, but they encounter some humans on an expedition to the planet, and they've lost power too in their spaceship. And they've been struggling to survive, but the reason they're there is they need to mine a unique element on the planet that can help them cure a deadly plague throughout their colonies or what have you. Of course, this takes place in the future, Meanwhile, there's the natives who seem to be quite hostile, and they've got some weird religion. And they capture Sarah, and they're going to sacrifice her to their high priest, all because she got too close to this ancient city that does appear to have power. There's this beacon at the top, and that's interesting, isn't it? Well, she gets captured and going to be sacrificed because it's forbidden to go to the Forbidden City. So anyway, the Doctor's got to save her. The human expedition helps him too. Then suddenly there's another ship arrives, but it's got the same problem. It's losing power, and it lands, and they say, well, let's go see what they're about, and hope maybe to all three, together we could figure something out. Unfortunately, it's the Daleks. So hence the title of this particular adventure, Death to the Daleks. And spoiler, they do die. Just not all of them, just, the ones that crash land on this planet. It's an okay episode. It's got some interesting aspects to it, and some things they just introduce and drop. But then again, maybe it was supposed to be a longer story than it was. Sometimes they have ones that go for 6 parts, and it's like, that's too long for what they had. Here, I might have could have done 6 episodes, But the main interesting part about it is everybody is powerless. So, the Daleks have no power, their weapons don't work, the Doctor mocks them and all that. And they're surrounded by these hostiles, But the Daleks aren't going to just sit around like that. No. They figured out pretty quick how to get the edge. And so they just go back to the old-fashioned way of guns and shoot projectiles out of their weapons, So then they're back in charge, So they pretty much start bossing orders and everything. And to ultimately figure out what was interfering with the power so they can escape and all that. Well, of course, everyone knows it has to be that city. The Doctor eventually gets into the city and discovers more of the natives. There's a split. There's the natives that are very superstitious and believe this is a curse of the gods and whatnot. And then there's the other half that remember what they used to be, and that, of course, they created the city. And all of that sort of stuff, and it's advanced technology and whatnot. But it's this labyrinth within there, and there's all kinds of traps, and you got to go through it. Of course, the Doctor figures it out. He's followed by some Daleks, and some of the traps, well, they really don't figure it out. They just power through it. And, of course, not a Minotaur, but there is a robot monster there guarding it and stuff like that. And then eventually discovers the whole secret or whatnot, or what happened to these people, and and all that. But ultimately, that's it. They solve the puzzle, they get the whole story, and really the guy that the smarter of the locals, the other faction or what have you, that's with the Doctor, he's already pretty much explained it. Their ancestors built the city. The city became self-aware. It's basically, an AI story. It turns bad. And they tried to destroy it, and it ended up wiping nearly all of them out. And the survivors are what you have, the ones that become superstitious tribesmen, and the others are just sort of the exiles of that tribe, and they're trying to hold on to what the true story was, but they really can't do a whole lot, and they can't shut down the city. because they're not in there. And ultimately, that's what, they do shut it down, so the AI is no longer capable of anything. But it's the explosives that the Daleks blackmail the humans into setting up for the beacon is what restores the power. So in a way, the Daleks are the ones who saved the day for everybody. Wasn't their intention, but so now they've got their power back. They want all the element that the humans are after. I said, we need it, but really they're just going to hoard it, because they get in their ship, they leave, but they intend to douse the planet with a plague bomb, which I can't recall if it's actually stated, but it seems like the whole plague was the Daleks themselves invented it and was using it. And now we're going to continue to blackmail people. Well, we have the cure, that sort of thing. That's what I took it to mean. But in the meantime, there was a sort of subplot amongst the humans where there was a guy who was a bit maybe not so great, but he gets his redemption here, in which he managed to spirit away one of the bombs. They only needed the one to blow up the beacon, so he takes that with him, sneaks onto the Dalek ship and detonates it, killing himself, but nevertheless stops them from bombing the planet with the plague. Of course, the explosion might have released the plague, so it might not have worked, but the whole ship burned up, so I guess it's fine. And so there you go. The power is restored. The Doctor and Sarah say, well, that's good. So they head back to the TARDIS, and the humans can get their ship and whatever of what's left of this. I forget the name of the element, but anyway, they can take that back to their colonies to save them from the plague. So there you go. That's pretty much it. Again, the interesting part is, of course, you have hero and villain having to work together, if albeit very shortly, and that sort of thing. And then, but the natives and whatnot are just sort of there and almost an afterthought. And so I don't know the full story of the production of these episodes, but I kind of wonder if it was meant to be a little longer to flesh that out. I don't know. But basically, you get into the city, and then it's explained, oh yeah, this, and then that'll have to suffice, so okay. So anyway, that's about it. Death to, a few Daleks. That's basically what So this concludes my catching up with the Third Doctors. These were episodes I didn't have initially when I was doing the review of early Doctor Who, and then of course I've gone back to get a few that I skipped because didn't have them. There's a couple for Troughton I might get to, not sure, but that's about it. So after this, I guess it'll be the Paul McGann TV movie, and then New Who, which is a whole other thing, really. But there we go. So we of course, the Third Doctor eventually takes on the planet of the spiders, regenerates in the fourth, and so on. So, all caught up. Tom Baker will always be the main Doctor for me, and obviously because it's the first one I, saw. But ultimately, even after seeing all the others, still is. But the Pertwee Adventures I always did like, and it was, of course, it's similar era because, one follows the other and that sort of thing. So there were more elements of it recognizable to me when I finally got to see his episodes. But I appreciated the own styling of it and how despite all shows have repetition to them, it's impossible not to. And really, every genre you've seen is going through a few tropes and motions that you will see over and over again. It's all dependent on how charming is it, what little twists, and how can you shuffle the furniture around, that sort of thing. But most notably, the charm of the lead and what have you. And for the most part, for a lot of times, that was the main thing. If you sealed that for your Doctor, then you were pretty solid. but eventually failing scripts and ideas not fully fleshed out, and that became more apparent down the road. Most of the complaints were lack of money, and that was always true, though. You know, you had some really stellar runs of Doctor Who episodes, and they didn't have very much money on those either, you know. So, I mean, I'm sure it was annoying for them, and ideas they had they couldn't pursue because they had to, you know, fit it to their circumstances. But nevertheless, you know, the ideas, and conceptually there still were ideas to the right up to the end in '89, but it just seemed like the life went out of it, you know, and it was hindered by a lot of other things and whatnot. But all in all, a lot of fun, and such was true of John Pertwee's run as well.